I'd like to call to order the City of Belton Planning Commission session. This is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Could we have the roll call, please?
Chairman McPherson.
Here.
Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Commissioner Christensen.
Here.
Commissioner Crate.
Here.
Commissioner McDonough.
Here.
Commissioner Monahan Bass.
Here.
Commissioner Walton.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
All right, thank you. First item of business we have this evening would be the review and approval of our minutes from our August 6th Planning Commission meeting. Those have been printed and distributed, and would entertain a motion for approval at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 6th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for a second. Any additions, corrections? I'm sorry, Mr. Walton, you are out of order. All right. I know what that correction has to do with, and that's what happens. Yeah. So, anyway, anything else? Seeing none at this point, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion does pass. We have several items on our agenda for this evening, including a couple of non-public hearing items as well as public hearing items, and a few things that will be continued to future sessions as well. So our first item that we have under new business this evening is FDP 2024-04, an application for final development plan for the View, an 11-lot and 1-tract single-family resident development on .89 plus or minus acres, generally located on the northeast side of 2nd Street between Herschel and Hackberry Streets. And Ms. Fernandez, our city planner.
Thank you, Chair. An application was filed to final plat a 0.89 acre block between Herschel Street and Hackberry Street on the north side of 2nd Street into 11 lots and 1 tract to develop 11 single-family homes with detached garages and a central gathering space. The subject property is bound by a single family in the City Hall Annex. Just to give a brief overview of this project came from a city-issued RFP back in October of 2023. We held a neighborhood meeting in February of 2024. The Planning Commission denied the project initially due to further revisions being needed on April 2nd. The Planning Commission then recommended approval of the resubmitted plan for preliminary plat and preliminary development plan on May 7th of 2024, and subsequently the City Council approved the preliminary plat and development plan as presented with all conditions on May 28th, which is what you see now in the staff report. No further changes have been made since the last presentation, but the applicant has provided some additional information on finishes and warranties to better illustrate the quality of their product, which has been provided to you in those handouts. And we are also facilitating a tour for council tomorrow to see some Elevate homes in Kansas City to kind of see their final product as well. If there are no further questions or anything on the packet, staff recommends approval of the application for final plat and final development plan with the 3 conditions listed in the staff report.
All right. And is the applicant here, or was there anything that
Yes, the applicant is here as well for
wanted
questions.
to give them an opportunity if there's anything additional besides what staff had that you would like to share? If you come, let us know.
We don't have anything additional to add.
Okay.
Unless you guys have any questions, and we're happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Wanted to give the opportunity if you would like, so thanks. All right, so are there any questions, comments from the commission? Or we would entertain a motion if there is no discussion.
Motion to accept it.
All right, motion for approval. Is there a second? All right, thank you. All right, do you have motion and second? Motion on the floor. Is there any final last-minute comments or discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
No.
Chairman McPherson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryan,
No.
Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Commissioner Monahan Bass,
No.
Commissioner Crate.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So moving to our second item of business then would be the application for the final plat for the View, an 11-lot, 1-tract, single-family residential subdivision on .89 plus minus acres, generally located on the northeast corner of 2nd Street between Herschel and Hackberry Streets. And Ms. Fernandez?
No further presentation.
All right. Is there any discussion on the final plat? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the final plat.
All right, thank you. And a second.
Second.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Any other discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Pryan,
No.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Commissioner Monahan Bass,
No.
Commissioner Crate,
Aye.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
No.
Chairman McPherson.
Aye. Thank you. We will move on to item C in our agenda then, and this is for a public hearing. We will call public hearing into session. This is for RZ 2024-02 and PDP 2024-02, an application for a rezoning from R1 Single Family to R1 PUD, Single Family Planned Unit Development, and preliminary development plan for the development of 39 single-family houses and 2 common tracts on 11.44 plus or minus acres, generally located south of the 155th Street and west of White Drive, to be known as Southview Residential, formerly Sunset Hills Third Plat. And Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. An application was filed to rezone from R1 to R1 PUD and preliminary plat 11.44 acres between 155th Street and 157th Street west of White Drive into 39 lots in 2 tracts to develop 39 single-family homes and a trail connection. The subject property is bound by a single family and Southview Commerce Center. To give a quick background on this project, the 11.44 acre property included in this application was previously platted in June 2021, known as Sunset Hills Third Plat, and it included 26 proposed lots with a minimum lot width of 75 feet. And this plat was proposed to be developed after the completion of Southview Commerce Center by North Point Development. After the application submittal for this project, staff requested that a neighborhood meeting be held in June 2024 after the development proposal was reviewed. Approximately 30 residents attended and provided feedback that included concerns about the number of lots, lot widths, and the buffering from Southview Commerce Center, which led the development team to reach out to residents individually. So the development team at North Point Development met one-on-one with the most affected residents and requested to continue the project until satisfactory revisions have been made, hence all the times we moved this from meetings. and the team resubmitted what is included in this staff report. The revisions to the original submittal include reduction in the number of lots from original 41 to the now 39, and increase in the side setbacks and lot widths for lots on the east side of Star Times Drive and the easternmost lot on East 157th Street. The removal of front elevations of homes that were only comprised of siding with no masonry or batten board, and the addition of light shields on existing light poles in Southview Commerce Center, and the additional fencing and buffering adjacent to the south property line. Based on the revised submittal, the following site design regulations are requested to be approved with the PUD, which are in the site design table in the staff report. All of those listed in blue are modifications to the underlying zoning R1 requirement. So the minimum lot size is requested to be 6,000 square feet instead of 8,400 square feet. The minimum lot width is requested to be 50 feet instead of 70 feet. And the front setback is proposed to alternate every 2 homes from 25 to 30 feet front setback. And these side setbacks are requested to be 5, 8, and 10 feet. Most are 5 feet, and there are a couple that are 8 and 10. And the corner side yards are proposed to be 12.5 feet instead of the 30 feet. Max building coverage is also requested to be 35% instead of 25%. So all of these listed in blue here in this table would be approved with the PUD. Staff put together a quick little graphic to show the different lot configurations that they're proposing. So the graphic shows all of those in orange are lots that are smaller than our R1 zoning regulations. So most of the lots proposed here meet our minimum square footage requirements under R1, but there are a few that don't. And then the numbers indicate the side setbacks that are being proposed. So all of the 8s are proposed to be along the existing homes there on the east side. And then most of the proposed lots are 5-foot setbacks. The lots range in size from 6,120 square feet to 13,339 square feet, with 50 to 69 foot wide lots. And let's see, Tract A, which is 1 acre and is located along the rear of Southview Commerce Center Building 4, contains the contains the proposed 8-foot trail connection to the existing trail network through Southview Commerce Center, which will be maintained by the property owner. And Tract B, located at the end of Valley Road to the north there, would be proposed to be green space and an additional buffer. The plat includes extensions of East 157th Street, which is an east-west street with 60 feet of right-of-way, and Star Times Drive, which is north-south with a 50-foot right-of-way. Both streets and adjoining cul-de-sacs are proposed to have 5-foot sidewalks on both sides, which meet all UDC requirements. The preliminary site plan indicates that lots 1 through 39 are proposed to be 39 slab on grade, single-family homes with attached 2-car garages and 2-car space driveway. The proposed landscape plan includes all required street trees, yard trees, foundation plantings, as well as some additional trees along the proposed roadways. Let me get this there. And as well as along the proposed trail connection. The landscape plan also indicates that areas of the existing vegetation will be preserved during the construction to keep natural buffers. And based on the feedback from the neighborhood, some additional off-site improvements have been added to the project, which I mentioned earlier. Some of those include enhanced landscape buffers to the south, as well as the addition of a 6-foot and 10-foot fence to the south to help buffer residents from Building 3. Those light shields are proposed to be installed on the parking lot lights. along the rear property lines of buildings 3 and 4. And due to the depth of the lots, the landscape plan proposes to sod the front, side, and street corner yard to the rear property line and utilize seed for the remainder of the lot areas, which include interior rear yards. Additionally, concerns have been expressed to staff and by staff with the state of the chain link fence along East 155th Street that predates the Southview Commerce Center. This fence was not addressed in the previous development plans, but it is out of character with the aesthetics of Southview Commerce Center and should be replaced with a new metal picket fence matching other fences built in the development. Staff encourages the developer to further look into this concern and to provide the primary entrance, to look into this concern with the primary entrance of this residential development. The proposed development plan includes 16 different floor plans with options for elevation and interior upgrades. The minimum design standards for all proposed elevations with the PUD are that floor plans should not be repeated side by side. All exterior elevations shall include a minimum of 2 materials if the main material isn't horizontal siding. All floor plans shall include a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway, and the rear patio should be a minimum size of 100 square feet. Based on the findings of fact, Southview Residential Development meets all of city's standards and requirements in the UDC outside of the modifications requested with the PUD. And staff recommends approval of the application for rezoning, preliminary plat, and development plan with the 3 conditions listed in the staff report. I'm here for questions, and then I'm going to switch over. The applicant also has a quick presentation.
Okay. So, since this is a public hearing, I think the way that we will handle it is we ask for the applicant to go ahead and make their presentation, and then we will open the floor for anyone that would like to speak in favor of the plan, and then open the floor for anyone that would like to speak in opposition to the plan. And then once the public hearing is closed, then the commission would be able to continue to ask questions. All right, and if you'll just state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I am Brian Forker with North Point Development, and our address is 3315 North Oak Trafficway, Kansas City, Missouri. With me tonight is a development team consisting of Chris Chancellor, Jennifer George, our builder Brian O'Banion, and Kyle Jones of Roush Coleman, and Doug Clausen of DCB Development. I want to thank staff for their presentation and working with us through this project. There we go. As outlined by staff, the site is currently zoned R1 and is approximately 11.4 acres. The site is zoned FC1 to the south as a business park, and the other 3 sides are R1 surrounding the development. In 2021, we came forward with the Sunset Hills 3rd plat and Southview Commerce Center 5th plat. Sunset Hills was the residential component, and Southview 5th plat was the open space landscaping, berm, fencing, and detention basin to the west side of the graphic here. The intent of the open space and residential homes was to provide a buffer between the existing residential properties to the east and the proposed business park building to the west. The residential project area has had a residential plan approved in some form for over 2 decades. North Point is not a single-family developer and has marketed the site for the last several years since the approval in order to bring a residential builder to the city of Belton. The feedback we received from interested builders was that the site would require a lot of infrastructure with too few lots to support the cost. With that feedback in hand and wanting to complete the residential project that we discussed, we put pencil to paper to develop a solution. Continuing our discussions with the development community, we met with Roush Coleman as a local builder that was interested in the project. With Roush Coleman on board, we developed the proposed PUD plan. As outlined by staff, our application request is for approval of Southview residential development for an R1 PUD zoning, a preliminary development plan, and a preliminary plat. Our initial PUD site plan submitted on May 31, 2024 did include 41 lots and some flexibility of the R1 zoning district that a PUD zoning designation would provide. The waivers, as mentioned from the R1 zoning district, were a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet, minimum lot width of 50 feet, with our typical lots being 51 feet and 61 feet wide. We did modify the yard setbacks. The front, we varied them along the street from 25 to 30 feet to break up the street view. Our side yard, we did reduce to 5 feet, and our corner lot was 12.5 feet. The building coverage was increased to 35% based on our building footprints and lot sizes, and the lot depth multiplier was increased to a 4-to-1 ratio based on the significant depth of some of the lots in the center of the project. And as mentioned, the rear yards would not receive sod due to the depth of those lots. As the project progressed, we held a neighborhood meeting on June 20th, 2024, here in this very room, and over 30 residents attended. The meeting had a passionate discussion about the site plan and the project. We primarily heard on the site plan that our lot widths are too narrow. The 5-foot side yards are too small in that it only provides 10 feet between the homes. And we should match the lots adjacent to the existing residential. In addition, we heard numerous concerns about how North Point conducted business in developing the business park and state of the park today. Neighbors shared that they did not have a contact at North Point when any issues arose. They can see truck headlights and pole lights from their house. They hear sounds from the business park, especially emptying materials into the dumpsters overnight. That the grass has not been maintained and the fences are in disrepair. This is not what we expected to hear, but we are glad the adjacent residents spoke up. The meeting provided a good opportunity in North Point to hear the issues that the neighbors were having and where we clearly dropped the ball. The comments received at the meeting were unexpected and disappointing. However, we pride ourselves on being a good neighbor and a community partner. Based on the comments we received, we did not fulfill that obligation. After the meeting and in discussions with the residents most impacted, North Point commits to the following site improvements to the business park to be included as part of the residential PUD. Add cutoff shields to the lights shown, install evergreen trees on the berm, increase some sections of the fence to 10 feet tall, and move the relocated 6-foot fence to the west end to extend it, to block the view of trucks and headlights. The dumpsters that we discussed with the neighbors have either been moved to the other side of the building or removed off-site. Even though these improvements are outside the boundary of the proposed PUD, we wanted to include these site improvements as part of the conditions of the PUD approval to provide the community with some certainty that these things will be completed. I'm working to have these improvements completed this fall. In addition, we introduced North Point's property manager to the adjacent neighbors, providing them with a single point of contact for anything that arises in the future. As mentioned, we found a builder to develop the residential project, and they are already building homes in the city of Belton. I would like to introduce Brian O'Banion, Director of Land Acquisition for Roush Coleman, to present their company, programs, and our proposed homes.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioner, Mayor, thank you. Brian O'Banion with Roush Coleman Homes, 6811 Shawnee Mission Parkway, Overland Park, Kansas. So a lot of you all may not be familiar with Roush Coleman. We've been in this market since about 2007. Not a huge emphasis. They were running that out of another area. So we came on board and it started, doing a lot of stuff in this area. Oh. Just to give you some idea, Roush Coleman Homes has been in business for over 65 years. Last year, we basically closed right at 5,000 homes in our region, and providing homes throughout the area for affordable homes. Kind of a little bit of who we are. Our motto is better homes, better lives, improving quality of life one home at a time. And it kind of goes through our vision there. Kind of our value statement. At Roush Coleman Homes, we honor God through our commitment to integrity and excellence in all the aspects of home building. We place the highest value upon the customer by exceeding expectations and upon our team members by committing to professional development. We aspire to build the best quality, affordable homes. We hold ourselves accountable to that goal. Some of our core values, of course, we're customer-driven, integrity-driven. We're also self-driven and people-driven and results-driven. Here's a geographical footprint of where we currently are building. In green, those are markets that we are currently in. The gray areas are some markets that we are currently going into. Some of those I've already gone into and are starting developments there. Currently in the Kansas City metro market, you'll notice these are actually projects that we have going on currently vertical with houses. You all may or may not be aware we're building in Traditions just here in Belton. We've got another piece of property that we've been talking with someone about as well, bringing some other homes to the Belton area. We typically like to go in and do, 80 to 100 acres and do, kind of a mix of product in those particular areas. Currently, we're building Gardner, Spring Hill, Paola, Blue Springs, and Belton. And we're in development stages in Tonganoxie, Edgerton, Independence, several other markets, and we've got other ground that we're taking down currently. So our goal here in this market is to basically be at about, 600 homes yearly for this market. And this will give you just a little background of us real quick too.
Roush Coleman Homes is on a mission to create thriving communities throughout the Kansas City area by developing neighborhoods of high-quality, affordable, single-family homes. As a top 25 home builder in the U.S., founded with core values deeply rooted in the biblical principles of genuinely caring for others, living and working with integrity, and leading with a servant's heart, we truly believe that Roush Coleman company culture is special. Our communities offer new home options with lower monthly payments than nearby rental alternatives, making new home ownership attainable for so many. Our buyers are in all stages of life, from single parents to newlyweds and young families to empty nesters, and discounts are offered to hometown heroes such as school teachers, police officers, firefighters, veterans, and nurses. With a legacy of over 65 years in business and more than 30,000 homes built, we are delivering daily on our mission of improving quality of life, one home at a time.
So as it said, we currently in 2024, we're ranked 21 of the top 100 builders. We're actually ranked 4th in the country as private builder. We're still a private builder owned by Mr. John Roush. We kind of went through the site plan. You all have seen that, and that's been discussed. No different there. This is just a representation of some of the homes that we build and that we've basically put for this area here as well. And I encourage you, if you want to go out to Traditions, we have a model that's open. Any of the other properties you can go to and see our models and see how they're done. Here's just some of the floor plan renderings. Something currently promotion-wise that we've been doing, right now, we've been doing $12,000 towards closing cost or buy down the rate to about 5 3/4. So we do everything possible to bring an affordable home and let people have the ability to have home ownership that they typically wouldn't get. The other thing we spoke about on there was the Hometown Hero program. Like I said, we basically go in and we give discounts on homes to those that work in the medical field, cities, teachers, nurses, doctors, veterans, for that. Basically, our home building excellence, of course, we're full-time CM on site always. There's always going to be a project manager there, as well as sales staff. We do advanced scheduling, quality assurance. Our job sites are kept very clean. I challenge you to go to any of our job sites currently right now and see how those are. We like to keep those clean. And we do a lot of value engineering as well. All of our homes come with a 2-10 warranty, starting year 2, going through 10. That's on foundation, any type of materials such as that. And then we also have independent third-party inspectors that come in on top of what the city typically does, just for our quality assurance to what we want to do. So third-party for pour inspection, framing, inspection of insulation and engineering, and then of course AIRS, which is the home energy rating system. And that's pretty much all I have. So if there's any questions, we appreciate your time. We're excited about being in Belton. Like I said, we don't come in and do one deal and leave. We become partners in the city. We also become partners with schools, the superintendents. I'm very active with most of all the superintendents in this metro. So we're very glad to be in Belton. Look forward to being in Belton for a long time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Based upon the comments expressed by residents at the neighborhood meeting, we also made updates to the residential plan that have been included in our resubmittal and that's before you this evening. I'll walk through the differences between the initial plan on the left and the revised plan on the right. We reconfigured the original lots 6, 7, and 8, which is at the northeast corner of Star Times Drive and 157th Street. These 3 lots right here. These lots were combined and rotated and face Star Times Drive. What this does is allows the residential home from being on lot 8, right adjacent to the neighbor's outbuilding, to closer to start time and a larger distance between the two. This change removed 2 lots from the area, reducing the ultimate lot count from 41 lots down to 39. This allowed us the ability to preserve the tree buffer along the east property line. We also revised this also in these 6 lots, we increased the lot width closer to approximately 66 feet wide, and we upped the side yard setback to 8 feet from the 5. The original lot 9 in this location was revised to better match the existing property next door. And we proposed a 75-foot wide lot, and we increased the side yard setback on the east side to 10 feet, which matches R1, and 8 feet matching the other 6 lots to the north. And we also preserved the tree buffer along the south property line. To conclude, we seek your support for the proposed R1 PUD zoning, preliminary development plan, and preliminary plat, with the conditions for the proposed site improvements on the Southview Commerce Center. Thank you. Our team is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. As I said, we will open it, since this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the proposal as we've heard it? Ask once again, anyone that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to the proposal? If you'll come, we'll ask you to come one at a time. Limit the time to 3 minutes, if you would, and ask that we not get into a lot of repetition. If somebody already says what you have come to say, let them speak for you and not just repeat, okay? And the other instruction I'll give is if you'll just give your name and your address for the clerk to get the record.
I'm sorry, did you say 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
5, I'm sorry.
Okay, because I
think
thought
I
it
did
was
say
5.
3, but
And
it is
actually, if
5.
I start to go over that, you'll have to play the music and I'll just start dancing or something. Good evening, my name is Linda McKelvey. I live at 15612 White Drive, and I'm addressing you tonight in opposition to the proposed rezoning and preliminary plan. I stood before the Planning Commission in 2021 in regards to the Fourth North Point Warehouse. I can't believe that I'm standing here again this evening speaking against another North Point proposal. At least this time I don't have to wear a face mask. In March 2021, when the Planning Commission approved the preliminary plans for the fourth warehouse, the residential area consisted of 22 lots, as I stated. A North Point rep called me during that time, and one of the things he stated was that their lot dimensions were kept in line with mine and my neighbors to provide for cohesion with our properties, and I appreciated that. In June 2021, the final plan, which was approved, had been revised to 26 lots. Currently, the North Point preliminary plan calls for 39 lots. My goodness, how those lot dimensions changed. If this rezoning request to an R1 PUD is approved, who knows what the final plan and replat will look like. By the way, North Point claims they met one-on-one with the neighbors they considered to be most affected. My house is on the west side of White Drive, 2 houses north of 157th Street, and abuts the development. Nobody called me. I guess I wasn't one of those most affected. At this point in time, North Point and the builder justify the need for additional lots as being a product of economics due to the rise in construction cost. To that I say, had they built the roads and infrastructure of the residential area like they said they would at the time they built the fourth building back in 2021-22, they would not be in this situation. Obviously, it would have been much more economical for them to have done the infrastructure at that time. So what about my economics? Am I supposed to suffer the consequences for their lack of following through with their commitments? My property is my investment. The proposed houses, which if they aren't bought to be rentals at the get-go, without a doubt will wind up being rentals within 5 to 6 years. That will further negatively impact the value of my investment. I like my house. I like my neighbors. I like my community. We have no intentions of selling and moving until we have to relocate to assisted living facility. At my age, that may not be long. At that time, we'll need to get the most money that we can for our property. Why should we have to take a financial hit so that big business, North Point, can take a larger profit? Returning to the subject of the proposed houses to be built, I have gone by a few of the houses being built by Rosh Coleman and Traditions. I have read several reviews about them, about their homes, many from first-time home buyers. I have seen the 1.15 out of a possible 5-star customer rating on the BBB website. I am concerned about the quality of construction materials and the actual construction of the proposed homes that will be built. The houses are all supposed to be built on slab. I'm not opposed to slab homes per se. My first 4 homes were built on crawl spaces. Slab homes limit living space, which basement homes allow for, and therefore limit value. pardon me. At the neighborhood meeting, the builder stated that all the homes built could fall within the 1,200 square foot range. I think the smallest house on our street on White Drive is over 1,500 square feet, and many of them are much larger than that. 1,200 square foot houses built on slabs, along with the reduced lot sizes, are not even close to the value of the properties to the east of the site. And I'm referring to those along 157th Street, Allen Drive, and on further east. You know, and I know must be my 5 minutes. There's a lot more that goes along with that as far as noise, congestion, traffic, to concrete, being that close together on 11 acres, possible water runoff.
I'm sorry, your time has expired.
I want to say one last thing, if I might. You know,
I'm sorry, your time has expired.
You know, they say as time goes by, a person doesn't necessarily remember.
You are out of order. Please take your seat.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
We are not open for questions
Oh,
at
I'm
this
sorry. I
time.
thought it said on the thing that you did ask questions.
We are not open for questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak at this point? We have rules for following so that everyone has their opportunity, and not to be rude or anything like that, but if we follow the rules, then there will be problems, and everybody will have their opportunity to speak. You are out of order. Would you like to be escorted out?
Well, you can't do that legally.
Yes, we can.
No. This is, you can't do that legally.
We will adjourn this meeting for 5 minutes. This meeting does stand adjourned for 5 minutes. Back into session. I do want to remind you that this is a public hearing. It is a part of the Planning Commission's regular business meeting, and we are more than welcome to hear what you have to say, but there are certain rules that have been published. They are part of the minutes, and if you would take a look at the agenda that is at the door, you will see that the rules that we have to adhere to are listed there. And that does mean no speaking out from the audience. If you want to speak, you can come to the mic one at a time and address the commission. And we will have to maintain some order of order in what we're doing, and that does mean one at a time coming to the microphone to speak. And we just ask and thank you in advance for understanding and following with the directions. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you would give your name and address for the record, please.
Drive. And we're opposed to this. So we have some issues as far as we went from 22 houses to 26 houses, and that was okay. We were acceptable to that. Then all of a sudden we go to 39. And the reason we have to go to 39 is because it's financially feasible to make it work. Well, our problem is, and that's for the developer to have that. Well, I'm looking at the city council meeting from April 13th of 2021, and it specifically states in here that Brent Miles, owner of North Point Development, said at that time they will build the infrastructure for those streets. They will build it. So it's not going to fall on the developer now to do that. So if that's what all these 39 houses are going to be doing, is to make up for that difference, North Point already agreed to it back on April 13th of 21. So that should take some of the cost off of the developer, so we do not have to be cramped in there for 39 houses, and we can go back to the 26 that we were originally promised from the very get-go. So that's North Point's responsibility, and it was approved with Davis, Tretzel, everybody that was on the council at that time. So now we're going backwards and we're reneging on that. We're going 39, and North Point stated they will pay for that infrastructure. So that should not be an issue why we can't go back down to the 26 houses. And it's their problem that the prices went up on everything. They had everything there to start out with when they were building that last warehouse. And then our concern is, so I was looking at the traditions and where they were showing the houses that were sold, they had probably one person had had the same name on 5 houses that were sold. Does that mean that we have a person that's buying 5 houses and now they're going to be rentals? That's our problem there too. And that there was at least 3 different names on multiple houses in the traditions. So that means those are going to be rentals, even though that they were bought. So we have an issue with that, because now we're looking at having rentals over there. There was never really a traffic study, and if you have ever gone down 155th Street after 6 o'clock in the morning, and you have a semi-truck coming around that circle, you can't even go out either way, especially if they have to go up to Hillman. There's no traffic study. You have all the traffic coming from Creekmore and everywhere else, and you try to get out. I try to make a left-hand turn if I have to leave my house after 6 o'clock, and let me tell you, it's a nightmare to get to 71 Highway. There was no traffic. You know, you're putting that many houses, that many people, that many cars, we're going to have a big issue. So I don't know what you're going to have to do with that part, but that's getting a little bit crazy. And, you know, there's lots, like we had Cherry Hill, the Platte, all of the those houses, they just had lots for sale. So you had an area, and you had individual people buying the lots themselves, getting their own builder to do it, just like what we did in Sunset Hill. The lots were for sale, We had those. We got our builder, and our builder used local materials. They used Owen lumber when we built our house. And I'm afraid that they're not even gonna use any of the local builder, any of the local, things that we can offer here, because they're gonna bring it out from somewhere else. I'm sorry, I'm really dry. And then, I'm worried about, when we built our house, we really had to, go by all these codes. I mean, they were sticklers. We had to do so many things, and I'm afraid that we are not gonna, they're gonna do subpar work, and their backs are gonna be turned, the city and so forth, not getting it, what we had to put through to get our house, that you guys are gonna let go, let slide through. And, I think that's about all I can do right now. I'm sorry, I'm so dry.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else care to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Dennis Mood. I live at on White Drive. I'm on the second house off the corner of 157th Street. The gentleman from North Point said that they dropped the ball on a certain number of things, and so did this planning commission and the city council did. As Bianca mentioned, the 2021 minutes of April 13th specifically mentioned about North Point building the infrastructure before the houses are done. If this planning board had gone back and looked at the records that are on file with the minutes, we wouldn't have to be here tonight talking about it, because the things that were supposed to have been done would have been done already. Because you guys, in order to approve this project, it is your responsibility to see that the conditions are met. They haven't been for 3.5 years. That's why we are here tonight talking about it. And if you guys would had held the North Point's feet to the fire before continuing on with these meetings, we wouldn't have to be talking about it. And that about covers what I have to say, because everything else has been said. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Tim Smith. I live at 6505 East 157th Street. I'm the closest person to the Chewy's warehouse, and I back up to the construction site. I think North Point done a fantastic presentation tonight. My problem is not with them, because they came up and we've talked, and I'm in the construction industry. My issue is with the city council, with the planning and zoning commission, of changing the rules to accommodate a situation, a builder. That's not my problem. When I bought the place, I've been there 10 years now, and even from the get-go, or after that, I started to buy the property. I seen I couldn't make it, a go of it, finishing up the subdivision with what was platted. I seen that the cost was too high for infrastructure and so forth. So I didn't buy the property. My problem now is that the city council is for me also. They're to protect me, my values, my property value, my style of living, my house, my property. And the biggest concern I think a lot of us have is, yes, there's going to be rentals there. That's my problem with this whole, because I want it developed. You know, with the grass, the fires, the homeless, the noise is horrendous. The lighting, you know, again, North Winds came to us, and what other concerns? Well, that's part of it that should have been caught by a project manager for the city council, whoever went back and shut down the project and said, okay, did everything get completed? It didn't. There's a lack of a process, and that's my concern of, you know, the barriers, the trees, the noise, the infrastructure pieces that were, you know, are they being slid because, well, we don't really need to do that, or we can slide just by. Again, I think that's our concerns about the procedures, the infrastructure, all these things that's promised. They need to be held accountable for that. And that's not them. I'm putting that back on the city for not following up and doing their due diligence for the project. And again, that's why we're all concerned and we're hesitant about believing anything that's being put on paper, because it has been in the past, and it's just not happened. And again, my property value, again, it's a purchase that's, I'm gonna sell it eventually. I don't want my property value to go down more than it already has. I had it sold and they backed out because of the buildings there. They were building as I was selling it. They said, oh, no, we're done, we're backing out. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Pete Kirby. I live on White Drive. I know the mayors came out and visited with me. I talked to some other people. When you get told something, you know, when I grew up, you know, when your word meant something, we were told specifically in 2021, we trusted them. We trusted the city council. We trusted everybody. They came to us and they said, well, you know, the last couple of weeks they've visited with me and Tim. Not a whole lot of the other neighbors knew about it. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And I told them I wouldn't commit to saying yay or nay. But I kind of feel like they're still not listening. They tell us stuff from back then, but they didn't do it. How do we trust them now to do what they said they're going to do in the future? We have no trust. I think they need to do what they say they're going to do. Then we come back and to decide what we're going to do about the houses. They need to go fix that fence. You know, the Calvert's collision place has got a nice fence around that. The Keystone Dentistry, there's an oil change place, they put a fence, you know, like they're supposed to. If you're going to make rules, they're for everybody. And North Point, they haven't went by the rules. When they added I guess, Chewy's warehouse, that was first told us it was going to be 3 warehouses and we wouldn't have no loading docks facing no houses. And there was this line of sight design. Okay, there's going to be berms up, there's going to be trees. There's not been a tree on the berm behind Tim's house. We're looking right at the docks. We're hearing trucks. They drop. I've worked construction 40 years, and I've seen how they did construction around there. The dust storms, the dust tornadoes came down our street. It was terrible. So numerous houses had to put air conditioners in. You know, we don't get any compensation. We had 50-something dump trucks come down our street, turn in, and they drop dirt right where you're putting them houses. They had rock and debris that was there better than 2 years. You know, and we had to look at it. Then all of a sudden the dirt and stuff's gone. Then we get to see the extra noise because they have a pathway cut. And the pathway brings noise right up right to our house. And they say they're going to put houses in there, but it's still not going to do anything about the pathway. The Planning Commission should have looked at the way that was first designed before. We never got a say. There never was a meeting when that third warehouse in. There was no berm adjustments. There were nothing said, nothing done. And this whole thing, you know, on their meeting on the 21st, they do a site plan. The people up on Star Times, they say they're not supposed to be looking at any trucks or trailers. They're looking right at them. Go drive right down there. Look at this stuff. I've mowed a path. You can go behind my house, walk that path, and you can look at the warehouse. There's no berm. They say they're going to plant trees. Let them plant the trees. Let them do the berms. Let them put up the fences. Then we'll decide what we're going to do about the houses. I think that they need to do what they say they're going to do first. We're not going to wait for that later on. We've waited long enough. I don't think this is fair. just, we've talked about property values. We all have investments. I built a house, a detached garage. I got a couple of really pretty nice muscle cars. I'm worried about what's moving in there. We don't have no police coming to check out our street. We're all homeowners on our street. We all look out for each other. We're not nosy neighbors, but we do look out for each other. There ain't no one of them. I've had numerous parties. This infuriates me that I'm coming up here, and this makes me mad because I'm the most happy-go-lucky guy. I try to get people together and have fun, and this ain't fun.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone to speak either in favor or in opposition? We'll give one last chance. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we'll open it up for the council, the commission, to discuss any questions. There have been several items that have been brought up by the citizens that have spoken that I think would be good if we could have addressed as well, because we did ask to hold all the questions until afterwards. I made notes of several of these, and I probably missed a few, but I don't know, staff, if you would be best suited to handle this, or if we want to have the applicant. The three main items that I heard was the infrastructure, traffic, and then with the housing development where multiple people are listed for houses. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but maybe Brian from Roush, I don't know if you have any idea what.
That's news to me, so.
Okay.
Come to the microphone. Come to the microphone.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Jones with Roush Coleman. So I was interested with that question as well. So I texted our builder who builds in Traditions, and of all the closings he's done out there, he hasn't closed with just a single homeowner for every home. There hasn't been one buyer that's purchased multiple homes out there. I will say we aren't the only builder in that current phase of Traditions. There's 3 builders out there, so maybe whatever lots were looked at may have been one of the other builders that had multiple lots that sold to a single person. But all of our homes that we've sold out at Traditions have all been for owner-occupied homes.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say also there was a couple comments about code enforcement or us wanting to possibly not build to code. That's not a thing in this day and age. So not only Belton, but all communities that we build in around the metro, there's city inspectors, and if there's a list, an inspection list to follow and make corrections, our trades make those corrections. So that's not a thing anymore on maybe trying to bend the rules or anything like that. Last thing was local suppliers and trade partners. Everybody that we use is local. We don't go pull somebody from California, New York, or any of our other divisions that we're in. We're all local trades, and all of our suppliers are local. So we're not hooking up a train cart from wherever and bringing in supplies. We're all local, like Brian said in our presentation. We want to be part of the community. We're based in Fayetteville, out of state, but we're here, and we want to be a good part of the community. So I just wanted to address those items as well.
All right.
Any other questions while I'm up here?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that clarification on that. So, I don't know, Director, if you want to field or give any direction on these other areas that have been brought up?
I can answer a couple of the items related to the traffic study. The property is for single-family residential. We only require traffic studies if there's a significant traffic generator that may warrant turn lanes or traffic signals. That is not a situation in a single-family subdivision of this size. You would be looking at a subdivision with hundreds of homes before something like that would be warranted. Not only that, but 155th Street has been improved over the past decade to a 3-lane collector street. So all of the development there infrastructure improvements have been made to accommodate additional single-family development in this area. On the infrastructure comments, I believe that was related to North Point in 2021, committing to developing the infrastructure. That is common in any kind of development. The developer will develop it, but if the developer is selling it, usually whoever purchases that property does install that infrastructure. And I don't know if any North Point representative has any more to add to that.
Thank you, sir. On the infrastructure note, it was always my impression that as this project, not being a single-family developer, was purchased by a builder, they would put the infrastructure in for the roads. That's the discussions we've had with the builders for the last 3 years. So as typical with residential development, that's what we saw happening in this project here. As some of the neighbors have mentioned, we dropped the ball on the berm, and that's why we put through this planned district of the PUD, using that and providing the conditions of the south property line with the fences, the evergreen trees, and the light shields. Put those as conditions. That gives the neighbors something to hold us to. That gives City Planning Commission, City Council, and city staff to refer to if we don't live up to that with this approval of this plan.
Any questions, comments? Yes.
So are you saying that the berm and the trees are a condition to this moving forward? Shouldn't that have already been done?
It should have, yes.
And the light covers, all of that should have already been handled, and if you dropped the ball, when are you picking it up? When is that going to be done? What is the plan?
Jennifer George, also with North Point Development. I think what Brian was highlighting in terms of the berm and the fence, we had done a variety of those things in compliance with what was required in the development plan at the time. It has, in either cases, we've had situations where fences fallen down and they've needed to be repaired, and we have failed to repair it timely. There's some locations where that fence height turned out to not provide the level of screening that was anticipated at the time, which is why we've proposed to do it a little bit higher. There had also been some requirement at the time for the fence to be not solid. Planning staff had required it to be kind of in chunks with trees breaking it up in the middle. And I think we're finding that there's locations where it makes more sense to have it be a solid line of fence. So these are some new things that we're doing in response to the concerns that we've heard.
And when were these concerns originally heard?
We've just heard these concerns starting at the June open house.
Gotcha, thank you.
I would like, Chris, can you come up and speak to Brett's comments back in April 21 to clarify that a little better?
Chris Chancellor, also with North Point Development. Yeah, I would say that the infrastructure and getting that constructed, putting the streets in, and, you know, this kind of goes back to Brian's point of we're not single-family developers. You know, we build concrete boxes largely and some really nice apartment buildings, but we have not historically developed single-family residential. And so as, you know, best laid plans that, you know, I think Brent had said, hey, we'll do this work, we'll put these streets in. And then we went to the market afterwards to start to find buyers and builders for those lots. And what we found was that's not what you do. We don't want to grade the lots and then end up with a lot that is not buildable by a builder. And that builder wouldn't then, we would end up with some lots that didn't get built on. It would kind of be a half-built subdivision. In addition, that when, and I hear the comment that there was, hey, you could have built it all at the very beginning, and you would have saved yourself some money. Yep, best laid plans again. I think that would have been, fantastic. But we were at the same time having conversations with builders saying, whoa, 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 stop, don't build that infrastructure yet. Let us work on what it would look like for us to build it so that we can maximize the value out of those lots. So it was a catch-22 for certain for us. I would also argue that it was during post-COVID, we all know inflation just skyrocketed, and concrete was not immune to that. Concrete probably more so than most other things skyrocketed in cost, and asphalt and all of those infrastructure building materials. And so those are the things that we were kind of struggling with as we continued to, reach out to different builders. And we have tried for 2.5 years to really figure this out. I will tell you this as a representative of North Point, the last thing that I wanted to be doing is standing here in front of you 2 years or 3 years later and telling you that we have to have 39 lots and not 26 lots. Life would have been so much simpler if we had just built the 26 lots. And everyone out here is going to agree with me. But the reality is, financially, it does not work. And you can say it's a big corporation, but the reality is we have a fiduciary responsibility to our partners who invest their money with us to make sense of it. And that's our responsibility to them, and we take that very seriously. And so when, we look at a situation where, okay, what is it gonna take to bring somebody in and to build this out? And we want it to be successful. We don't want to end up with, 12 or 15 lots built on, and then it's kind of a half-done subdivision, because that's the worst thing that can happen to us. And so, Roush Coleman provides the volume to be able to knock this out in one phase and to get folks living in those homes. Affordable housing is definitely a component that we need in, not just in Kansas City metro area, but, across the country. And so we feel strongly that this is the right builder and that this is, the right plan. I will tell you, we heard from multiple builders, if you can't get at least 41 lots, we're not interested. That's why the number 41 kind of came up, because we were trying to really figure out how can we maximize this to make sure that we can find someone that's going to build on it. And, we heard the concerns at the open house, and I appreciate Mr. Kirby's comments, but for him to say that we're not listening, that's absolutely not true. We have made a number of revisions specific to this plan in response to the comments that we got in those meetings from Mr. Kirby and his wife and Tim Smith and his neighbors. And in addition to that, I would say my apologies if there's someone that we did miss. I will go on record to say that when we met with some of those neighbors, we talked to those neighbors that night after the meeting. As the meeting was ending, the neighbors came and talked to us, and we said, okay, we're going to come back and meet with you. If there's others that you think need to be there too, well, great, invite them. That group is what we consistently met with. So, again, I will take that responsibility that I didn't call each and every person, but we really thought that we were reaching out to the right people. If you have any other questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Do we have a price point for these homes?
That I would defer to Roush Coleman.
Okay.
That, again, we do not develop or build single-family homes, so.
Those typically are gonna be like.
Sir, come up to the.
Those are typically going to be around the 250, 260 to the mid threes is what that will end up being. We basically build to whatever the customer wants. So people put in upgrades, want a certain plan. So, that kind of gives you the range of what those are. So thanks.
If I can just add one more point too, in terms of the plan changes that we did make, you know, we lost those 2 lots on the east side, the ones that back up to the lots on White Drive. And that was really, you know, I mean, we took guidance from the neighbors as we walked through this and tried to make the plan changes. And, you know, the idea when we met and talked about this was, you know, you may not be able to get the exact width of our lots, but we'd really like you to get a lot closer than what you had. And admittedly, you know, those lots previously were, you know, 51 or, you know, up to 60 feet, but there was a lot of 51-foot wide lots there. We revised those to 66, 67 feet wide, which, you know, 75 is the minimum width for a typical R1, but, you know, we lost 2, dropped it to 39. We've really been negotiating on how to still make this work financially. And I'll just tell you, it has been a struggle, but we're committed to making this work. So, and then lastly, to, you know, the neighbor's point about, you know, well, can they go plant the stuff? Sure, we can go plant the materials. We're definitely going to do that. We'll wait till the fall. We wouldn't plant it in August or September. But we're going to plant it. We have the light shields are already on order. So here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should be able to get those materials in and get them installed by our contractor. So we are moving forward with these improvements. What we heard from the neighbors clearly was, how do we know you're going to do it? We said, what do you want? Well, you know, well, we think the council should require you to do it, some plan that requires you to do it. Great. We'll take a plan, put it part of this PUD, and we will not, and Roush Coleman kicked me here after this meeting, but we will not allow Roush Coleman to get a CO on one of their houses until we fulfilled the obligation that's in the plan. And, you know, and that was our commitment. And we thought we had a consensus when we met with the neighbors that was agreeable.
Yes, but you need to come to the microphone. I know we heard from the developer about the PUD and the changes. I would like to hear clarified from city staff on that process and what happens if they fail to do that.
Okay.
But we can do that after.
So, I was back there, I got a calculator and I know how to run it a little bit. What, if you talk about you're gonna get $250,000 per lot, what's it come to, 11 million something? So if you subtract that and you put houses in there in the $400,000 range, you could make the lots bigger if you could sell. We had two houses on 157th Street. I believe they sold for over 400,000. So you're saying that you can't sell the houses for that kind of money because you're saying that the warehouse is depreciating property values. Is that what I'm understanding? I mean, if you can't put houses in like we already have, like my house, and you can't afford to put those in there and come up with the same amount of end number, I'm not just saying, just take your phones out, calculate it out. It's not hard to figure out.
Okay. I will say, we allowed you to go ahead, but the public hearing has ended.
Sure,
So at this point,
well, we were just taking out of context. He's saying lot size, we're saying value of homes. Understand what we're saying here. We're talking about bringing the value of the homes up to make them like ours.
but as
Really,
as the question was asked at the public open house, are all the homes in that same price range?
On our
And the
street?
answer was no, they're not. They're all different sizes. They're small. There's a lot of them that are not near as nice. So that I think
I
has
understand
been
what you're saying.
that has been taken into account. So staff, I think Mayor did have a question.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody understands. I know we've heard from the developer about the changes off-site to the rest of the North Point development. that are gonna be part of this PUD. I wanna hear from city staff on what happens with that and what guarantees that that will happen.
Yeah, so since it's part of the PUD, those off-site improvements are required to be made. Those were not specifically, timeline was not conditioned. Typically, we condition those with since this is just the conceptual or preliminary phase of this development, there would be a final development plan and a final plat that would come back at a later date if the rezoning of the preliminary plat and the PUD are approved. That's typically when we condition those. Those could be conditioned either on building permit issuance or a CO. Typically on off-site improvements like that, we would prefer to hold building permit issuance on that rather than a CO because we don't like to be put in a position to where we're potentially holding up a buyer from closing on their house.
And if we held up building permits, when would we do that now? Would we need to amend this to do that?
We could do that. We could add it to this, or we could add it with a final development plan and a final plat at a later date. But we don't have any concerns with making that an added condition to the preliminary plat and preliminary development plan.
Other questions from the commissioner?
And if you wanted to add that as a condition for holding up the building permits, the planning commission can add that as a condition, so.
And that would be to any motion that we would make this evening as to whether we proceed or not. And I think that was one of the comments that I heard was how can we make sure that that's going to happen? So it's good to know. Anything?
I think I know the answer to this, but why are they all slab homes? Is it money only? That's why they're all proposed as slab homes? Is everything tradition on slabs?
So as we mentioned, we're based out of Arkansas, and so we've in the past Thank you. So typical building in Arkansas and Oklahoma and Texas, that's how homes are typically built in those markets. And so when the division up here, initially when we came up here in 2007, we tried doing basements, and it just doesn't fit our model on how we build. So we've moved back to just doing slab on grade on everything up here in Kansas City. So it's, I mean, you kind of hit it on the nail on the head, is, that trying to hit that attainable / affordable housing for first-time home buyers. Was actually talking to our builder this morning, and we're actually about 50-50 now as far as first-time home buyers and empty nesters. So people downsizing and, going from a larger home to small.
You guys build 100% slab homes, you know?
Yes, sir.
Poor basement.
Correct.
Interesting.
Question to add to his, if someone said, hey, I like this neighborhood, I want this lot right here, but I want a basement, would you guys do that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner?
On the east side of, on Straight Street, I guess it is, you got 6 lots in there. Why can't we make those lots the same size as the lots that they are batted up to? Because it doesn't make any sense to add 6 lots and have your fences all different routes. And that's what the people are wanting. They're wanting their lots the same size. So why can't we go for the people and make those lots the same size? Because I personally think all the lots are too small.
Yeah, I can appreciate your comment, and, I would say that we ended up getting those lots to 67 to, 66, 67, 68 feet, kind of depends, depending on which lot you look at. And, in an effort to get them as close to the 75 feet as we could. And I know it may sound ridiculous to say every lot matters, but it really does when we're spreading a significant amount of cost over that number of lots.
You put a bigger lot in, you put a bigger house in, that matches the houses that are already there. And you make more money on that house than you do on the 2 lots.
Yeah.
But, on 1 lot.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're gonna see on these lots. I mean, they're 67 feet wide, so, what we did purposefully was to try to widen those lots out and reorient them such a way that you would be able to get the 2-story, 3-car garage for sure on those lots that are gonna be at the top end of, the sale price in that neighborhood. And so that was our goal, Commissioner.
I would jump in here real quick and say that the homes on White Drive currently are larger than our required lot widths. So required lot widths for R1 are 70 feet, and the White Drive homes that are existing are larger than 70 feet. So if they were to keep the underlying zoning district, they would only have to go to 70 feet wide.
Why do you have these ones on here that are marked in orange that say smaller lots?
So the orange are those are smaller than the minimum lot size in terms of square footage, but not lot width, if that makes sense. So square footage wise, because these lots are a lot deeper than they are wide, the square footages are larger, but the lot widths aren't as large, if that makes sense. A lot of these lots have large backyards.
We're making special adjustments for these certain lots.
Due to site constraints, yes.
And that goes along with the deal we had over here. Everybody was complaining about that being the lot sizes, and you said, oh, we do that in certain cases. Well, now we're doing it for everybody.
Well, we allow that in PUD zoning districts. So PUDs are created for these situations where we want to be creative.
Over here, now you can't finish it. Because now once you do it for them and you do it for these, you're gonna keep doing it throughout the whole thing. It's not gonna stop.
I would add to your question about fence lines and stuff. They have agreed now to keep all that tree line in there between the old and the new. At one time, they were gonna take that tree line out, but now they have agreed to keep that in there.
I don't see how they can do that with the way the lines are growing. 'Cause the trees are all on the side where the house has gotta be built.
Commissioner, I can try to address that. Those lots are like 190 feet deep, so they're really deep compared to a typical single-family home lot. And so when we met with the neighbors, we actually walked out kind of a distance of trees that are out there that we would like to keep, that would give them the buffer that they desired. And so I think there's some fairly large trees out there, and then there's a lot of smaller kind of undergrowth and stuff like that that provides a good screening and good buffer. And so what we talked about doing is going to the outside of the drip line of those large trees to make sure that they weren't damaged, and then we'll fence those off during construction to make sure that no one goes back in there. And so that's how those are going to be maintained. In terms of, fences, if somebody's to run a fence all the way back in there, there probably would be some limited amount of trees that would potentially come out for them to run a fence back there. But I suspect that they're gonna wanna maintain the trees as well. Just, as I shared with the neighbors, I'm not the only one, but I really love trees, and so I'd like to see them kept if I lived there, so.
Wide are the existing lots already there that the houses are built on?
Hold it, Kirby, come to the microphone, please.
So I I live at the last house. My lot's about 100 foot wide. You can see a detached garage. I'm about 200 foot deep. That's roughly the size of our lots.
Any further questions for staff, for the applicants? Or what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve RZ 2024-02 and PDP 2024-02 with an amendment that no building permit can be issued until all obligations under the PUD are met by North Point.
Okay, we have a motion. And for the record, did you get that, all of it? Okay.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to accept with the amendment. Is there a
Second.
Second? All right, thank you. Any final discussion, comments, questions? We would be accepting as it is printed with the addition of the restriction that no permits would be issued until all the PUD requirements have been met. Yes. Any other questions? Seeing none, could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Commissioner Crate,
Aye.
Commissioner Walton,
No.
Chairman McPherson,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
No.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Monahan Bass,
No.
Councilmember Pryan.
No.
Okay, thank you. So what was the final?
So a tied vote would be a recommendation for denial to the city council.
Okay. So at that point, then, item D would not be something for us to consider at this time, is that correct?
Correct. If the council does approve the rezoning and the preliminary development plan, we would bring the preliminary plat back to Planning Commission for consideration.
Okay, very good. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is public hearing for VAC 2024-01, application for the vacation of right-of-way and easements on property located at the southwest corner of I-49 and East North Avenue, 58 Highway. And this one is being asked to have continued until the September 3rd meeting. So,
Motion to continue VAC 2024-01 as presented.
Second.
all right, motion and second. All in favor of continuing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And item F, public hearing, consideration for the adoption of the Belton 2050 Comprehensive Plan. And this also has been asked to be continued until a future meeting. No date given at this point, but it will be announced with announcements through the paper being, or by publishing the announcements through the paper at that time.
Motion to postpone to a later date the consideration for adoption of the Belton 2050 Comprehensive Plan. As
Second.
presented.
All right, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Director's report.
Yes, we will have a meeting on Tuesday, September 3rd. That would include the vacation public hearing that we just continued, along with potentially some applications related to that project. I also passed out everybody's seat a postcard for the Marquee Business Park sub-area meeting that we will be having next Thursday, August 29th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock at Meet Me on Main. We specifically passed these out, or mailed these to all Cherry Hill property owners last week. And it was related to some concerns that we were receiving from a number of residents in the neighborhood related to the Marquee Business Park sub-area plan that's in the draft comprehensive plan. And so we will be hosting that. We'll have some historical information about Marquee Business Park and how this future land use map was developed. And so that's part of the reason that the comprehensive plan has been proposed to be continued to a future date. We also did receive some additional final revisions on Friday, and those are available on the comprehensive plan website. So I encourage everybody to take a look at those. We're hoping to be able to bring the comprehensive plan back, though, at some time in October. But we will definitely have the our standard public notice for that, and that, of course, will be on our website and on the agenda prior to release.
Okay. And next meeting, as we noted with the one item, will be September 3rd.
Correct.
Any additional items?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.